I think I just found the most genius book ever made. This is a collaboration between Hello Kitty and Nietzsche. It even says Zarathustra here. Like, who came up with this? And it even gets better because, okay, look at this. This is Cinnamoroll and Spinoza's Ethica, and this is Gudetama featuring Karl Marx Das Kaptial. I am very sorry, Mr. Marx, for I have bought. Okay, so anyway, I actually found these books some months ago when I was looking for books in Japanese about Spinoza, and this is one I found on Amazon. And in the suggestions of this book, I found this one. So this is like an introduction to Spinoza and the Ethica book. And this is Cinnamoroll's Ethica. And the first time I saw it, I was like, what is this? Like, there's no way a book like this exists, right? And actually, the Amazon page didn't have like a preview of what's inside the book. But it did show a bunch of like these other books as well. So this is the entire series. It has other pretty famous books as well, even like... And I just couldn't believe that a series like this exists. So even though it didn't have a preview of what these books are like inside, I actually didn't want the preview because I didn't want any spoilers. All I knew was that I really wanted to read them. So I bought them and waited like multiple months for them to arrive because I chose to save like $2 on shipping by choosing shipping by ferry from Japan. So it just took forever, but that was a lesson learned. But I finally have them. And I actually finally finished reading all of them as well. So in this video, I want to kind of touch on them a little bit, but I don't want to completely spoil them. So I'm just going to introduce these books for people who might want to read them by themselves. The issue with that, however, is that, as you can see, these books are in Japanese. And as far as I'm aware, there is no translation for them, or at least there is no English translation. So one thing you can do is, for example, grab your phone. If you really want to read them, then one way to do that is just to use something like Google Lens and just translate everything. And as you can see, it says, Hello Kitty's Nietzsche. Important things to live strong. We don't need values decided by someone else. Learn about the way of life taught by philosopher Nishe. Okay, I say Nishe, but it's probably Nietzsche.
Nietzsche. Nietzsche.
I'm 100% going to be saying Nishe multiple times in this video, so I'm sorry every follow me for doing that. And the final line is, starting tomorrow I will no longer be jealous of others. And this one is also the first book that I read from this series. So I finished reading Hello Kitty's Nietzsche, then Gudetama's Das Kaptial, and finally Ethica by Cinnamoroll and Spinoza in the greatest collaboration of mankind. And before I open them up, this is what they look like from the back as well. They are, for some reason, Gudetama doesn't have a graphic here. Or maybe he's hidden under like this. Oh, yep, he was hidden over here. He was hidden under this label here. Japanese books always have these like belts. Look at him, he's driving in a shell car. Kinda reminds me of like that one character from Wacky Racing. Okay, if I remove all of these belts, oh, they all actually all have kind of like hidden graphics underneath. Then this is what they all look like. And actually, you can even remove the cover and then they look like, you know, regular paper books. I'm not sure how accurate the color is, but you know, they're nice beige books. Just put them all back. Okay, I just spent like 10 minutes putting all of these covers back. So I read all of these books, but the one I started with was Hello Kitty's Nietzsche. Okay, I'm going to open this book up. And, okay, this is just the start page. Ooh. So the first page is kind of an introduction to who's Nietzsche, as well as, for example, this line here says, so therefore, in his way of thinking, there are many hints which can make you forward thinking already tomorrow. Why not adventure the world of Zarathustra with Hello Kitty? Even if you try hard and try everything, it will be useless in the end. If you feel like that, then let's overcome such feelings. Let's live in a way that even if you were reborn over and over again, you would like to become the same person as you are right now. And to become a person that thinks like that, let's open the first page. Oh, wait, this is just a komoku. I actually probably shouldn't show that. And here it says enter. And it's just a red page with an enter sign. Ain't that nice? Whoa! Okay, this is the first page. Life is just like a journey. It's an endless journey to experience your own life. This is actually kind of weird to translate. I wonder how Mr. AI Google translate this. Life is like a magic. Okay, it says, life is like a journey, a never-ending journey to experience your own life. Every day you experience is a journey across the land of your life. Every landscape you encounter on your journey is meaningful and helps you understand yourself more deeply. Okay, so the way this book works is that this is like a headline, this is a more detailed explanation, and this really small tiny quote here is the direct quote that the headline and the explanation are derived from. Like, if I translate it, you're on your path to greatness. What was once called the final danger waiting to ambush you has now become your final refuge. And that should be from part 3, The Traveler, from the book Zarathustra. So essentially, every single page has some quote from the original book, and essentially it kind of summarizes it and makes it a bit more relatable with these headlines. And the entire book is like this, with like a bunch of cute graphics and stuff, essentially. And actually, every single one of these books is like that. The Gudetama one is especially interesting because like they're just like pretty creative. These pictures are somewhat related to the quotes that are under them, so I don't want to spoil all of them, especially because I think that will kind of count as piracy. But I'm going to go over a few pages that I wrote notes about. Okay, yeah, this is a page that I kind of liked. Oh wait, I liked this page as well, but I actually was talking about this one with the dolphin. And essentially what this page says is that if you're unsure what to do in some kind of a scenario, so for example, if you're not sure if you should proceed or just quit or throw away your, for example, a project you're working on, or should you keep on working on it, and so on. If you're unsure what to do, then it says that the most fulfilling choice will be the one where you're brave in that choice, essentially. And this is something that I've been kind of doing as well for the longest time, that if you're stuck between two choices, choose the option which is more difficult. Oh, I'm sorry, Dolphin, I didn't mean to do that. Because very often, the reason some decision might be really difficult is because the correct thing to do is the most difficult thing to do. In which case, you are kind of biased towards choosing the easier option, but you know that if you choose the easier option, then the outcome might not be as good. So if you have a dilemma like that, then just choose the harder option. Or like it says in this book, choose the option that requires more bravery. And in the end, you will be more fulfilled because you did that. And the next page actually is pretty interesting in this in a way as well, because I just let you read it because it's kind of long. So this essentially says that having somebody that you actually respect, or even is your friend, if you become rivals with that person, it is much more productive than becoming rivals with somebody that you hate. So for example, you might be competing with your friend in the gym. Well, if you go to the gym together as friends, you both kind of stimulate each other. You essentially stimulate each other's senses, you know, push yourself harder and stay more consistent, you know. Or if you have some kind of a passion or a hobby where somebody you know that you actually respect and like, it kind of might make you feel jealous in a way. But instead of being jealous, you can use that as motivation to improve by yourself. And you don't do that because you want to beat the other. Because in a way, if you lose that rival, then you no longer have anyone that stimulates you. Which is why you actually want your rival to succeed, because it sets your own standards to be much higher. Okay, let's go next. Wait, what? I was showing the wrong page the whole time. Well, this is the page. And look at this artwork, man. It's like a children's book, but it really makes you think. Like, you really need to think to solve this equation here. And this is like another interesting page. Okay, this is pretty... If you don't want to work, it's not because you hate work. It's because you don't know what work is. When I'm having really a lot of work in fun, I mean, having a lot of fun at work is when I'm learning something and improving. However, when I kind of just start autopiloting and grinding just to get the bare minimum done and just to finish something, then it just becomes really monotonous and unenjoyable, because you already know what to expect when you finish that work. There is no additional reward of having more knowledge now or being more experienced now, in the sense that you're just mindlessly grinding. But if you actually try to improve and do something better at work, if you actually put effort in, then it becomes more interesting and fulfilling as well. Even if you hate that job, even if you're going to quit that job, it can still help you later in life, even if it's just by you training that mindset. Oh, and we have a really big page here. And actually, this here is really similar to the rivalry thing. So it says, a long-lasting friendship is one in which you can challenge each other. You can both have admiration and hostility and still cherish the relationship in which you can respect each other whether you win or lose. And then the actual quote from the book says, we must see our enemies even among our friends and respect them. Okay, if I translate this quote myself, it says, see enemies even amongst your friends, but you must respect those enemies. So that also ties in really well with the rivalry thing. And at the same time, I feel like if you flip the quote in the sense that see friends even among your enemies, even if you have somebody that's like you truly hate, there might be still something valuable to learn from them by respecting some aspects of, for example, their personality or their character or their ability or skill at something. Oh, and this page is kind of interesting. Okay, the translation says that in front of your friends be your best self, but I'd say that the nuance here, you can kind of tell from the picture, but it's kind of like grooming, like with the brush, not fuck you internet, with the brush and the mirror. And I feel like the actual quote from Nietzsche is a bit more helpful here in the sense that it says, for the sake of your friends, no matter how beautifully you decorate yourself, it's never going to be over decorated. And the reason why is because for your friends, you are their arrow towards becoming the Übermensch. Therefore, you should be someone admirable. And the way I understand this quote is that essentially, instead of becoming loose and slovenly in front of your friends, if you take care of yourself in every single way, as well as strive towards becoming a person that works on their goals, as well as takes responsibility for fulfilling their duties and does what they must do, that will increase the standards of your friends. And when you think about it, if your friends are going to have higher standards, then eventually you will also have higher standards. So it feeds both sides, and over time it leads to a like-minded environment of excellent people. And now if the entirety of society does that, it can essentially lead to a society of excellence. Now, I've never actually read Nietzsche, but I know some of the concepts and the overall vibe that Nietzsche has, and I feel like that's pretty aligned with my impression of what his philosophy is like, including this page, because this page literally says "Deru kui ni natte." So there is this quote in Japanese, "The nail that sticks out gets hammered down." Well, this page literally says, isn't it okay to try being the nail that sticks out? And at first glance, the quote kind of sounds wholesome in the sense that, oh, it probably means to just, be yourself and stop worrying about being judged by others. But actually, if you look at the quote by Nietzsche here, it says, no one is more hated by those who cannot fly than those who can fly. And what it essentially means is that people will always try to bring you down when they see that you're better than them. The common sense meta of society is that humility is a virtue. So, you should be humble. You shouldn't state that you're better than others. But what this kind of does is that it makes you kind of feel bad or become scared of showing traits that clearly are just objectively superior to someone else. A really concrete example of this is that imagine that your environment, so the friends around you, the people around you, your family and so on, are kind of unhealthy in their lifestyle. So they might smoke, drink, they might be overweight, they never exercise and so on, but you might be the same way. However, you might start changing yourself. Like, for example, you might quit smoking, you might start eating healthily and going to the gym. And very often, people are going to know this really quickly, but very often they don't tell you something like, oh, that's really great, good job that you're quitting smoking. Their response is often just going to be negative. Like, oh, you're tracking calories now? What, do you have some kind of an eating disorder? Oh, you're going to the gym? Are you really so insecure about the way you look? Oh, you're going to be learning a language? Well, robots are going to be replacing all languages anyway, what's the point? It is so predictable that you almost have to hide it. Essentially, very often people have negative responses to somebody doing something productive. And the reason why is because it makes them themselves feel inferior. And I know that you have experienced something similar as well. It is just so omnipresent. Like, for example, the entire marketing of Planet Fitness in the US literally relies around the feeling of people feeling inferior to other gym goers. Like, there's this video by Natural Hypertrophy that's like, no offense, his narration of the video is so stupid, but it's like so toxic as well, but it's pretty funny though. I'll actually link it below. But essentially the point of the video is exposing the marketing that relies on people feeling uncomfortable about other people doing something productive. And actually that reminds me, he has another video on Swoleshaming. I don't exactly remember what it was, but I'm pretty sure it's related to this, so I'll link that video as well. But anyway, this is a video about Hello Kitty. So let's move on. Okay, so this page essentially says that people that shine as bright as gems are really outrageously fabulous. Outrageous. Okay, fine, it says people who sparkle like jewels are wonderful. Find as many good things about yourself as possible. It's okay to be self-confident. That confidence will make you shine brightly like a jewel. It will attract people. But this is exactly the same thing. Being humble is a virtue, which I actually agree with. However, people who don't have anything other than the ability to be humble should especially be humble. The reason pages like this exist essentially indicate that people just don't like excellent individuals because they make themselves feel bad. Page 75 says, the reason you might be nice to others might be because you yourself are weak. Oh my god. Here's the translation. So essentially the original quote is, there is as much weakness as there is goodwill. And the Hello Kitty explanation is, doing what is said to be good or telling someone... Wait, what? This translation is kind of broken. Okay, essentially it says, doing things that are seen as good by lending someone a hand, is it perhaps because you just want to be seen as a good person? Is that really kindness? Okay, and finally, I'm not going to be showing the entire book obviously, so this is the final page that I'll be showing. And it just says, there is so much that needs to be done. Love your work, love the way you live, and let's love. It sounds so weird when I translate it like that. Wait, hold on. This is kind of hard to film this video because the book wants to close all the time. Okay, and this is the translation. And the original quote says, your work and your will are your closest neighbors, which essentially means that you yourself and your own devotion and your own hard work are the most reliable person you know. Which sounds kind of weird, but the point is that just become really self-reliant and focus on your own excellence, essentially. That's all I'm going to be showing from this book. And it's funny because the combination of Hello Kitty and Nietzsche is so unexpected, but at the same time, it's interesting in the sense that, I don't know if it's still the case, but like 10 years ago or something, there was this sudden online boom where Nietzsche became really popular because of like Rick and Morty memes, essentially. And at around that time, I think Nietzsche became kind of associated with certain types of political groups online, but ironically, that never made sense because it was oxymoronic. But it still kind of scared or alienated away a lot of people from these types of works. And that's exactly why this Hello Kitty and Nietzsche combination is pretty interesting, because it kind of opens that door back up a bit. And I feel like a lot of these pages and quotes can be really useful for daily life and just changing your perspective on life to begin with. So, and okay, I'll admit that I was perhaps hoping something a bit more that you read from start to end and you're a lot more knowledgeable about Nietzschean philosophy in a more concrete manner, but this book is not that. It is essentially just single page short quotes based on the contents of Zarathustra. However, this is super easy to read, especially if you're trying to learn Japanese. And at the same time, every single one of these quotes can be very impactful depending on what you're feeling on that particular day that you read it. So for example, okay, I opened a random page and it says, don't get too obsessive over small happenings, essentially. On some days you might just read it and be like, huh. But if you read this book like a few pages a day, then if you're not having a great day or something, or that you've been worried about some particular thing recently, and you read a quote like this, it might instantly snap you out of it. And the same goes for Cinnamoroll's Ethica, which is more about essentially emotions, like understanding your behavior by how it gets affected by emotions and how, you know, controlling yourself, but at the same time understanding that you're unique in the way that you respond to certain environmental factors is important to understand and things like that. And I wrote that page 14, so this page here, is that if you have friends or companions, even if you clash sometimes, if there is something that binds you, if you have the same end goal that you're trying to both accomplish, you will still have synergy between each other and still help each other. And the same goes for like relationships and friendships. The reason why many friendships that you had, for example, in school end the moment that school ends is because you and that other person just didn't have anything that bound you anymore. But for example, if you make friends with somebody that has, for example, a very similar worldview or very similar hobbies or a life goal that's very similar to yours, in the sense that you can help each other achieve it, then it's much more likely that that relationship is going to last. And the same goes for romantic relationships, like where the relationship isn't just about being a relationship for the sake of it, but you have some really strong purpose that binds both of you. You're going to be fundamentally much more motivated to be more diligent and more patient when it comes to communicating and resolving small issues and so on. And finally, this is Gudetama Das Kaptial. And a lot of the things here are pretty common sense. But the reason they're so common sense is because Karl Marx's Das Kaptial is essentially the default meta of economy. It's extremely influential, so most of the things here are pretty obvious. But essentially, this book is kind of about knowing your rights as a worker, but also increasing your value as a worker, or starting your own business and how to find customers and how to keep customers and so on. But I'd say that the main highlight of this book is that it just has really interesting and cute graphics. Okay, this month, how much money I have. For that, bookkeeping can actually be a hidden fun activity, essentially. And here's Gudetama as a muffin looking at a sheet full of numbers, but he says that he can't read numbers. So, you know, it has cute stuff like that. It's fun of pretty creative stuff. Oh, this thing here. Each one of these books had these bookmarkers hidden away, like in the middle of the book like this. So I didn't know that at first, but when I was reading, like randomly in the middle of the book, I found like this bookmarker. And before that, I didn't use a bookmarker, so every day I would like guess where I left off last time. But thanks to that, getting to the halfway book felt like I unlocked a bookmarker, so reading it became easier next time by keeping it here. Even though I could have just searched for the bookmarker from the next book as well, I purposely waited until I find it in the middle of the book by getting there through reading, which kind of made it more fun. And now I have all the bookmarkers at the end of the book because I finished all of the books. Except my Hello Kitty one, I don't know where I put it, I just removed it. But yeah, this was my video on these 3 books. I kinda didn't showcase these books a lot, but the main focus was on this, and if you're interested in these books, you can just buy them and read them yourself, and there are a bunch of other books in this series as well. Maybe I'll even read some of them in the future myself as well. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed and hopefully it brought some value into your life. So see you next time.